We are still very early in the new year, and so I'd like to talk today about a posture that we might take into 2025. Stay tuned. Hello, friends. Pastor Tim Westermeyer here, Senior Pastor of St. Philip Deacon in the western suburbs of Minneapolis. Good to be with you as always. I was just chatting with Tim behind the camera there about whether this was our first episode of the year or not, which gives you a sense of my ability to remember what we've done in the last week, because it's, in fact, the second episode of the new year. The first episode, I believe, aired on January 1st. So that said, we are still early in 2025, and so I sort of have beginnings on my mind for two reasons. One is it is a new year, and so we're sort of living into the beginning of a new year. And that means at St. Philip Deacon, and this is the second reason I'm thinking of beginnings, that we're always sort of focused on confirmation. This coming weekend, we celebrate the baptism of Jesus. That's the festival we'll be celebrating on Saturday and Sunday during our worship services. That's always the start of a week where we celebrate our ninth grade students who are affirming their own baptisms. Another word for that is they're going through the rite of confirmation. And so I lift that up here just so that you can keep those wonderful ninth graders in your prayers this week, as well as their families as they go through a really important milestone in their own faith journeys. We take that really seriously here at St. Philip Deacon, and again, devote a whole week of events from this coming weekend to a midweek event to their actual affirmation of baptism services, not this coming Saturday, but the following Saturday. So keep them in your prayers as they sort of discern or continue to discern where God is leading them, where God is guiding them at this sort of new beginning for them. And then back to the first thing I was talking about, the start of a new year. For many people, the start of a new year, brings to mind New Year's resolutions or a word of the year. That's great. I have nothing against those things. I will tell you personally, I've never really kind of gone in for that. I'm not opposed to it. I guess I'm maybe not wired that way. That said, as we start this year, I was reflecting on, what would be a kind of appropriate meditation for all of us? And I was reminded of a little book. I do not remember if I've talked about this before. It's called The Art of Pastoring by a gentleman named William C. Martin. My own copy has, I don't know if you can see this, a ring on the cover of it, which is a result of some piece, I don't know if it's a cup of coffee or a glass of water that tore some of the cover off of it. But it's a well-loved and well-used book. And it's got short little chapters, each of them just a page. And the reading that came to mind as we begin this year, as we think about where God is leading us, is a reading that's actually, I'll read for you in a second, called Rest. And my thought, I guess, is if for you the start of a new year brings to mind you have to accomplish more, you have to do more, you have to be more, you have to earn God's love more. Again, I'm not opposed to working hard. I'm not opposed to, setting goals for yourself. But I'm not sure that all of the more kind of language is particularly healthy in terms of our spiritual life. And so I think there's something to be said for resting in God's love. And what better time to do that than at the start of a year when maybe all of those other ideas are swirling around in our minds. So let me read this to you, and then I'll read you don't have to read this, but you can see here's the actual reading, and then he always has a little reflection about it down below. And so I'll read the reading, and I'll just read a portion of his reflection, which I also think is instructive. So again, this is called Thought 9, or Thought number 9. It's effectively chapter 9, Rest. And here's what he writes. If you fill your calendar with important appointments, you will have no time for God. If you fill your spare time with essential reading, you will starve your soul. If you fill your mind with worry about budgets and offerings, I should have made it clear, by the way, if it's not already, this is written to pastors, so you can insert your own language here about things you might worry about. But if you fill your mind with worry about budgets and offerings, the pains in your chest and the ache in your shoulders will betray you. If you try to conform to the expectations of those around you, you will forever be their slave. And then I love this. This is how he ends it. Work a modest day, then step back and rest. This will keep you close to God. So that's the entirety of the thought, number 9. And then here's his note about this, and he was a spiritual director. I actually don't know what he's doing now or if he's still alive, but he was a counselor and spiritual director. So he would speak to people, he would visit with people to help them understand, well, where is God in your life? How are you listening to God's voice? And here is, again, what I think is a really instructive note about this thought. Take a long, prayerful, meditative look at your calendar. Who are you trying to impress? God? And then he says, give me a break, which is a way of saying God doesn't need to be impressed, right? Others? Possibly. Yourself? To which he says, bingo. And then he says this, now cut some big chunks out of each week for family, rest, meditation, prayer, and flower sniffing. When you've done that, we'll talk more about the path to God. So, again, if 2025, given that reading, it might allow us to focus on anything, perhaps it would be continuing to discern that path to God, that God leads us gently and joyfully and lovingly down. Thanks for being with me as always, and until next time, be well, stay in touch, and God bless.